The aesthetic of the Citadel Moongate was designed to make a human feel small, temporary, and entirely out of place. It was a fortress carved from the living rock of a moon that had died 1 billion years ago, reinforced with obsidian glass and the bioluminescent veins of refined stellar ore. The air always smelled of ozone and cold stone, a sterile scent that no amount of scrubbing could remove. Noah Reddick dipped his mop into the bucket of gray water. The harsh chemical cleaner stung his nose, a familiar assault that grounded him in the reality of his existence. He was a ghost in a machine built by wolves. Sector 7. The Hall of Ancestors was empty at this hour of the morning. Or rather, it was empty of physical bodies. Noah could feel the pressure in the back of his skull, a low-grade static that never truly went away. The Luperi called it the pack mind, a psychic lattice connecting every member of their species, a web of shared emotion and instinct. To a human, it felt like standing too close to a high-voltage power line. It was a constant reminder that he was an alien here, a solitary creature in a world of absolute connection. He wrung out the mop with hands that were scarred and calloused the knuckles, swollen from years of gripping rifles, and more recently, industrial cleaning tools. His left leg gave a twinge of phantom agony, a souvenir from the siege of Antares IV, though the prosthetic replacement was functioning at 99% efficiency. "Just 2 more hours," Noah muttered to himself. 2 more hours, then payday. He did not look at the statues of the wolf lords lining the hall. He kept his eyes on the floor. That was the rule for contract laborers from the Terran Coalition. Do your job, keep your head down, and do not make eye contact with the aristocracy. The peace treaty between Earth and Lunaris Reach was 5 years old, but the ink was still wet in the eyes of the locals. To them, Noah was not a janitor. He was a remnant of the enemy. He finished the hallway and dragged his bucket toward the service elevator. His destination was the upper terrace of the West Wing. It was technically a restricted zone, but the maintenance log showed a clogged filtration vent that needed manual clearing. In reality, Noah knew the vent was fine. He just needed 10 minutes of silence, where the pack mind static was thinner up, where the wind from the jagged peaks could scour his mind clean. The West Wing housed the Royal Nursery. It was a fortress within a fortress, protected by kinetic barriers, biometric scanners, and ancient runic wards that made the hair on Noah's arms stand up whenever he passed the main doors. He had no business going inside, and he never did. He simply went to the maintenance hatch on the adjacent roof, a flat expanse of gray stone that overlooked the sprawling alien city of silver spires below. Noah sat down on a crate near the warm exhaust of the climate control unit. He took a nutrient bar from his pocket and unwrapped it slowly. The sun of this system was a pale, angry white eye in the violet sky. He closed his own eyes, letting the fatigue wash over him. He was 45 years old, but his body felt 60. Every credit he earned here went back to Earth to a sister he had not seen in a decade, and a niece who probably did not remember his face. He just wanted to rest. Just for a moment. He did not hear them approach. That was the terrifying thing about Luperi, even the young ones. They moved like smoke. One moment Noah was dozing, his chin resting on his chest. The next, he felt a weight settle across his boots. Then another weight on his shin. Then, a soft, heavy warmth pressed against his side. Noah opened one eye, expecting to see a security drone or perhaps a very angry guard. Instead, he found himself buried under a pile of fur and velvet. There were 6 of them. They were in their shifting forms, mostly humanoid, but retaining the soft, dense fur, the oversized paws, and the rounded ears of wolf cubs. They were dressed in silken sleeping tunics, embroidered with the royal crest of the Moonfang dynasty, though the fabric was currently rumpled and stained with roof dust. One of them, a small female with fur the color of wood smoke, was using his prosthetic knee as a pillow, drooling slightly onto his maintenance trousers. Another, a male with ears that were too big for his head, was curled up in the crook of Noah's arm, his nose buried in the glorious grime-stained flannel of Noah's workshirt. Noah froze. His heart hammered a frantic rhythm against his ribs. These were not just children. These were the royal scions, the future of the Lunaris throne, the most heavily guarded biological entities on the planet. "Oh, hell," Noah whispered. The cub on his arm stirred at the sound. One golden eye opened the pupil, a vertical slit. The creature gave a low, rumbling purr that vibrated through Noah's chest, then yawned, revealing a set of milk teeth that were already sharp enough to puncture Kevlar. The cub snuggled closer, gripping Noah's shirt, with a hand that ended in blunt, retractable claws. Noah carefully lifted his hands in the air, a gesture of universal surrender. He did not dare move. If he startled them, if they cried out, the royal guard would vaporize him before he could explain that he was merely a furniture item in this scenario. "You have got to be kidding me," he breathed. "How did you even get out?" The nursery was a fortress. It had sensors that could detect a heartbeat from a mile away. It had wards that could fry a grown man's nervous system. Yet, here were 6 royal heirs, piled onto a human janitor, like he was a favored beanbag chair. He should call security. He should reach for his comms unit. But the gray female on his knee let out a soft, contented huff, and the pac-mine static in his head, usually an abrasive buzz, suddenly smoothed out. It became a warm, rhythmic pulse. It felt safe. For the first time in years, the knot of anxiety in Noah's stomach loosened. The sun was warm. The weight of the pups was grounding. Just 1 minute, he thought a terrible, treacherous thought. "I will call them in 1 minute." His eyes slipped shut. The sound of a plasma rifle charging was what woke him. Noah snapped awake, his instincts screaming. He did not flinch, however. Years of discipline in the trenches held him still. He knew that if he jerked upright, he would send the royal heirs tumbling, and that would be interpreted as an act of aggression. He opened his eyes to see the barrel of a long-range pulse carbine pointed directly at his forehead. Behind the gun stood Captain Rhea Solon of the Royal Guard. She was in her humanoid form, tall and imposing, her armor gleaming like liquid mercury. Her wolf ears were flattened against her skull, and her lips were pulled back to reveal gleaming white canines. Behind her, a dozen other guards had their weapons trained on Noah. "Do not move!" Rhea snarled. Her voice was a low growl that bypassed Noah's ears and vibrated directly in his bones. "Release the scion's human." Noah looked at her, then looked down at his lap. The pups were still fast asleep. The commotion had not stirred them. In fact, the one holding his arm seemed to be gripping tighter. "Captain," Noah said, his voice raspy from sleep. He kept his hands visible and open. "I would love to comply, but I am currently serving as a mattress. If I move, they wake up. If they wake up, they might be cranky." Rhea's eyes narrowed. She scanned the rooftop, looking for traps for accomplices, for any sign of the sinister plot that must have been unfolding. She saw nothing but a mop bucket and a half-eaten nutrient bar. "How did you bypass the wards?" she demanded, stepping closer. The tip of her rifle was inches from his nose. "I have a master keycard for the ventilation shafts," Noah said. "But I did not go in. They came out." "Impossible," a new voice cut through the tension. High Steward Callan Maris swept onto the roof. He was a spindly, elegant Luperi, wearing robes of midnight blue. His face was narrow, his eyes cruel and calculating. He looked at the scene, the human laborer covered in royal children, and his expression twisted into one of profound disgust. "The nursery is impenetrable," Callan hissed. "No human could lure the royal scions out without dark artifice. He has bewitched them. Look at them. They are in a trance." Noah looked down. The trance involved the smallest pup blowing a snot bubble as it snored. "They are napping, High Steward," Noah said. "It is nap time. I have a schedule to keep to, you know. I am supposed to be cleaning the East Wing right now." "Silence, filth!" Callan snapped. He gestured to the guards. Secure the children. Arrest the human. Use the suppression collars. He is clearly a warlock from the Terran Black Ops Division. Noah sighed. I was a corporal, actually, and I failed basic mechanics twice. Rhea lowered her weapon slightly, her amber eyes flickering between Noah and the sleeping children. She seemed confused. Her nose twitched, scenting the air. There is no scent of magic, High Steward, Rhea said slowly. And the pack mind is quiet. The children are not distressed. They are happy. He is manipulating their minds, Callan shrieked, losing his composure. Seize him! 2 guards rushed forward. They roughly pulled the sleeping pups off Noah. The moment the physical contact was broken, the peace shattered. The pups woke up screaming. It was not a human cry. It was a high-pitched, dissonant howl that set teeth on edge. They thrashed and snapped, trying to scramble back toward Noah. The gray female bit a guard on the wrist, drawing blood. The chaos was instant and deafening. Noah was hauled to his feet. His bad leg buckled and a guard slammed him against the ventilation unit, twisting his arms behind his back. Cold steel cuffs locked around his wrists. Easy, Noah grunted as his face was pressed against the metal. Watch their heads. They are groggy. Gag him, Callan ordered. Noah was dragged away limping heavily, while behind him, 6 royal heirs threw the temper tantrum of the century, reaching their small claws out toward the scruffy, dirty human who smelled of bleach and old regrets. The holding cells of the citadel were carved deep into the moon's crust. They were cold, damp, and utterly silent. Noah sat on the stone bench, rubbing his wrists. He had been stripped of his maintenance uniform and given a rough tunic of gray hemp. He stared at the wall, counting the cracks in the stone. This was it. This was the end of the road. He had spent 3 years keeping his head down. He had swallowed every insult, ignored every shove in the hallway, accepted the lowest pay grade, because it was still 10 times what he could make on Earth's ravaged surface. He sent 70% of his wages to his sister in Sector 4 of the Chicago ruins. Without that money, they would lose their filtration unit. They would breathe the dust. Stupid, he whispered to himself. You should have shoved them off and ran. But he knew he would not have done that. They were small. They were warm. And for 20 minutes the universe had not felt like it was trying to crush him. The door to his cell slid open with a hiss of hydraulics. Captain Rhea Solon stood there. She was not wearing her helmet now. Her face was sharp, angular, beautiful in a predatory way. She held a datapad in one hand. Get up, she said. The Queen demands your presence. Noah stood wincing as his bad leg took his weight. Is this a trial or an execution? Rhea looked him up and down. Her gaze lingered on the scar that ran from his jaw to his ear, a souvenir from a shrapnel blast. That depends on your answers, human, and in the mood of the High Steward. She escorted him out. They did not take the service corridors this time. They walked through the main arterial halls of the Citadel. It was a walk of shame, and yet it was something else. Dozens of Luperi courtiers, servants and warriors, stopped to watch them pass. Their eyes were wide. They whispered behind their hands. Noah caught fragments of their speech through the translator implant in his ear. The one the children chose, human warlock, smells like solvent and sorrow. Noah kept his eyes forward. He focused on the rhythm of his own boots. Step drag, step drag. They arrived at the throne room. The doors were 20 feet high, made of silver and meteorite iron. They swung open silently. The chamber was vast, a cavern of shadows and starlight. The floor was polished obsidian, reflecting the galaxy spinning overhead in the domed ceiling. At the far end, upon a throne carved from the skull of an ancient leviathan, sat Queen Malus Moonfang. She was in her humanoid form, but her shadow on the wall was that of a giant wolf. She wore robes of white silk that seemed to float around her like mist. Her presence was a physical weight in the room, a crushing gravity. To her right stood High Steward Callan, looking smug. To her left were 3 pack-mind mages, their eyes glowing with violet energy, their hands weaving patterns in the air. Rhea pushed Noah forward until he stood in the center of the room alone. "Kneel," Callan commanded. Noah hesitated. His leg was screaming in protest, but he lowered himself to one knee, bowing his head. He was a soldier. He knew when he was outranked. "Rise, Noah Reddick," the Queen said. Her voice was not loud, but it echoed in the silence, sounding like ice cracking on a frozen lake. Noah stood up. He looked the Queen in the eye. It was a breach of protocol, but he figured he was already a dead man walking. "You stand accused of using illicit Terran technology to bewitch the royal scions," Callan announced, stepping forward. "You have breached the security of the nursery. You have endangered the bloodline. The penalty is death." "I did not use technology," Noah said, his voice calm. "And I did not breach the nursery. I was on the roof eating a protein bar." "Lies," Callan spat. "The words are absolute. No child of the Moonfang blood would voluntarily approach a human. We are apex predators. You are prey. You are dirt." "Then your wards are broken," Noah said. "Or your children are bored." "How dare you!" "Enough, Callan," the Queen said. She leaned forward, her silver eyes boring into Noah. "The High Steward claims you used a frequency emitter to lure them. The mages claim you have no magical aptitude. The captain claims you were asleep." "I was your majesty." "Then explain it," the Queen said. "Explain why 6 children who have never seen a human before broke 3 layers of containment to sleep on your lap." "I do not know," Noah said. "Maybe I am warm. Maybe I am quiet. Kids are kids, your majesty. Sometimes they just want a place where no one is asking anything of them," Callan scoffed. "Preposterous. Bring them in. Let us demonstrate the creature's vile influence." The side doors opened. A group of nursery attendants entered, struggling to hold on to 6 leashes. The pups were in their wolf forms now, balls of fluff and energy. They were yipping and pulling their claws, skittering on the obsidian floor. They looked distressed, their ears flat. "Release them," Callan ordered. "Observe how they recoil from the human when his devices are confiscated." The attendants unclipped the leashes. For a second, there was silence. The pups sniffed the air. Then 6 heads turned in unison toward the center of the room. 6 tails began to wag so hard that their entire bodies shook. They did not recoil. They charged. It was a stampede of fuzz. They crossed the floor in seconds, ignoring the Queen, ignoring the steward, ignoring the guards. They collided with Noah with enough force to nearly knock him over. "Whoa, easy!" Noah exclaimed, dropping to a crouch to catch them. The gray female leaped onto his shoulder and started licking his ear. The others swarmed his legs, burying their faces in his clothes, making those deep, rumbling purring sounds again. One of them, the smallest male, rolled onto his back on Noah's boot, exposing his belly and demanding scratches. Noah looked up at the court. He was covered in royal wolves. He shrugged helplessly. "I swear," Noah said, "I am not doing anything." The silence in the throne room was absolute. The mages looked at their instruments, bewildered. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "It is an abomination," Callan screeched, his face turning purple. "He has poisoned their minds. Look at them debasing themselves before a contract laborer. Kill him. Kill him now, before the corruption spreads." Callan drew a ceremonial dagger from his belt and lunged toward Noah. The reaction was instantaneous. The 6 pups stopped wagging. They turned toward Callan. They did not look like children anymore. They bared their teeth. A collective low-frequency growl emanated from their throats, a sound that was far too deep for their size. It was the sound of the pack mind mobilizing. Rhea stepped forward, her hand on her weapon, but she stopped. Noah instinctively wrapped his arms around the pups, shielding them with his body, turning his back to the rushing steward. It was a soldier's reflex. Protect the civilians. "Halt!" Queen Melis's voice was a thunderclap. Callan froze his dagger inches from Noah's shoulder. He trembled, looking at the Queen. "Sheath your weapon, High Steward," Melis said coldly. You would strike the science to get to the human. You forget yourself. Callan lowered the knife, breathing heavily. Your Majesty, the risk. The pack mind speaks clearly, Mela said. She stood up and descended the steps of the dais. She moved toward Noah. The pups watched her wary but not aggressive. They stayed pressed against Noah's legs. The queen stopped 3 feet from Noah. She towered over him. She smelled of snow and ozone. Human, she said. Who are you truly? Noah looked up at her. He gently detached the gray pup from his shirt collar, though she immediately climbed back up. I am just a janitor, Your Majesty. No, Mela said. A janitor cleans floors. You are shielding my heirs with your body. You have the reflexes of a warrior, and the scars. She gestured to his leg. And Terry's fur. Noah stiffened. The name of the planet was a curse word in his mind. Yes. You fought against us. I was a soldier. I followed orders. Until you did not, Rhea spoke up from the side. Everyone looked at her. She was looking at her datapad. I just pulled his service record from the Terran archives. It was sealed, but I have clearance. Sergeant Noah Reddick. Dishonorable discharge. Stripped of rank. Reason insubordination during the cleansing of Sector 9. The room went quiet. Sector 9 was a massacre. Every Luperi knew the name. You refused to fight, the queen asked. Noah closed his eyes. He could feel the heat of the burning village. He could hear the screams. I refused to fire on a civilian transport, he said softly. His voice was rough. My commander said it was a supply line. I saw children on the thermal scopes. I told my squad to stand down. I broke the chain of command. And the transport, Milas asked. It got away, Noah said. But my career did not. He opened his eyes. He expected to see hatred. He saw the queen studying him with a terrifying intensity. You saved Luperi's life, she said. And now you sit on my floor covered in my children. It is a trick, Callan insisted, though his voice was weaker now. A plant to gain our trust. A long-term spy. Perhaps, Malis said. She looked at the pups. They were settling down again, their panic fading as long as they were touching Noah. The gray female had actually fallen asleep on his shoulder, drooling onto his collarbone. The queen felt the pulse of the pack mind. It was confusing, yes. But around the human, there was a pocket of absolute stillness. A sanctuary. It was not magic. It was trust. Pure, unadulterated trust. I cannot ignore the instincts of the seed pack, Malis said. But I cannot ignore the counsel of my steward either. We are at a fragile point in history, Noah Reddick. I just want to do my job and go home, Your Majesty, Noah said. I do not want trouble. Trouble has found you, Malis said. I will not execute you today. Noah let out a breath he had been holding for 10 minutes. Thank you. However, the queen continued, her voice hardening. I cannot have a human loose in the citadel if he possesses an unexplained influence over the royal line. You will be returned to confinement. Wait, Callan started to protest, but the queen silenced him with a look. Tomorrow, Malis announced, addressing the court, we will conduct a formal trial of spirit. We will take the human to the heart of the nursery. We will activate the ancestral stones. If he is using magic, the stones will burn him to ash. If he is using technology, the sensors will find it. And if he is innocent, she paused, looking at the pup asleep on Noah's shoulder. Then, we have a much more difficult question to answer. She turned back to the throne. Captain Rhea, take him away. And for the sake of the moons, get the children off him before they shed all over his tunic. It took 3 guards and 10 minutes to pry the pups away. This time, Noah helped, whispering soft words to them, promising he would see them soon. It was a lie, of course. He never expected to see them again. As he was marched out of the hall, he glanced back. The pups were gathered in a pile at the foot of the throne, watching him leave. Their golden eyes were wide and unblinking. Back in the cell, the silence was heavier than before. Noah sat on the stone bench. His leg throbbed with a dull, rhythmic ache. He was exhausted. His adrenaline had crashed, leaving him hollow. He looked at his hands. They were shaking slightly. Tomorrow. The ancestral stones. He had heard rumors about them. They were ancient artifacts that could peel the mind apart like a ripe fruit. If he had any secrets, any hidden malice, any subconscious darkness, the stones would amplify it and destroy him. He thought about the money transfer for his sister. It was due in 3 days. If he was executed, or even just deported, she would not get it. The filtration unit would fail. The dust would get in. "Stupid," he said again, leaning his head back against the cold wall. But then he closed his eyes, and he could still feel the phantom weight of the gray pup on his shoulder. He could remember the smell of them, milk and dry grass and ozone. He remembered the way the pack mine static had smoothed out into a hum of safety. For 5 years since the court-martial, Noah had felt like a piece of defective machinery, a soldier who could not follow orders, a man with no country. He was broken, jagged, and solitary. But for 20 minutes on a rooftop, 6 alien wolves had looked at his broken pieces and decided that he was exactly the shape of a pillow they needed. Noah Reddick sighed in the darkness. He was in deep trouble. He was likely going to die tomorrow. But as he drifted into a restless sleep, he found that for the first time in a decade, the nightmares of the burning village did not come. Instead, he dreamed of a quiet heartbeat and the warmth of a sun that was not quite so angry. The ancestral stones of Lunaris Reach were not merely geological formations. They were judges made of crystallized memory. Standing 10 feet tall in the center of the Royal Nursery's atrium, the 3 obsidian monoliths hummed with a frequency that made teeth ache and vision blur. They were designed to resonate with the intent of any creature that walked between them. Malice would cause them to glow red. Deception would turn them a sickly, necrotic green. Noah Reddick stood at the edge of the atrium, smoothing the front of his gray hemp prisoner tunic. He felt ridiculous. He also felt terrified. "Step forward, human," High Steward Callan Maris commanded. His voice was thin and sharp like a paper cut. He stood behind a shimmering kinetic barrier, alongside Queen Malus and the tense figure of Captain Rhea Sullen. "Let the stones flay your mind and reveal the darkness you hide." Noah took a breath. The air in the nursery was different from the rest of the citadel. It smelled of milk sweetgrass and an underlying scent of ozone, the smell of raw, unshaped power. He stepped onto the mosaic floor. The stones began to sing. It was a low, thrumming vibration that rattled Noah's prosthetic leg. He gritted his teeth, expecting pain. He expected the psychic equivalent of a strip search, a violation of his memories. He braced himself for the red glow of his own anger, or the green light of his guilt over the war. Instead, the stones turned a soft, pulsating blue, the color of a summer sky on Earth before the orbital bombardments. "Blue," Captain Rhea murmured, her hand relaxing on the hilt of her sidearm. "I have not seen the stones turn blue since the coronation of the Queen's grandmother." "It is a malfunction!" Kalen snapped, his fingers twitching. "He is jamming the frequency." Before Noah could defend himself against the accusation of being a walking signal jammer, the heavy double doors at the far end of the atrium burst open. There was no fanfare. There was only a scramble of claws on stone, and the high-pitched yipping of 6 creatures who had just realized their favorite piece of furniture had returned. The royal scions did not walk. They flowed. Frost, the gray female who seemed to be the ringleader, was in the lead. Following her were Ember Ash, Iron Halo, and the runt of the litter scout. They were in their wolf forms, balls of chaotic fur and enthusiasm. The nursery attendants, a group of harried Luperi with bite marks on their sleeves, tried to intercept them. "Your Highnesses, please, the ritual is not—" They might as well have tried to stop a landslide with a polite suggestion. The pups wove through legs ducked under grasping hands and launched themselves into the testing circle. Noah braced himself. "Incoming," he muttered. Frost hit him chest high, shifting mid-air into her humanoid form, a small girl with wolf ears and a tail that was blurring with speed. She latched onto his neck. "Packheart," she squealed, burying her face in his shoulder. The others collided with his legs, creating a pile-on that forced Noah to sit down hard on the mosaic floor. Immediately, he was submerged. Iron was chewing on the hem of his tunic. Scout had curled up in his lap and was already closing his eyes. Ember was busy growling at the ancestral stones, daring the monoliths to threaten her human. The pack-mind mages, standing in the gallery above, stared at their readouts in disbelief. "Your Majesty," the lead mage called out, his voice trembling. "The readings are impossible." "Report," Queen Malus said, stepping closer to the barrier. "The stress levels of the scions have dropped to near zero," the mage said. "And the ambient aggression in the room is gone. The human is acting as a grounding rod. He is absorbing the excess emotional static of the pack-mind and neutralizing it. He is not controlling them, Majesty. He is calming them." The Queen looked at Noah, who was currently trying to gently pry Iron's teeth off his sleeve. "Please do not eat that," Noah was saying to the prince. "It is state property, and it tastes like dust." Iron ignored him and bit down harder, his golden eyes sparkling with mischief. Queen Malus signaled for the barrier to be lowered. She walked into the circle, the train of her white gown sweeping over the stones. Callan followed, looking as though he had swallowed a lemon whole. "The data is irrefutable," the Queen said. "The stones show calmness. The pack-mind shows trust." She looked down at Noah. "It seems, Noah Reddick, that you are not an assassin." "I told you, ma'am," Noah said, wincing as Frost tugged on his ear. "I am just a guy who is good at sitting still." "High Steward," the Queen said, not taking her eyes off Noah. "Cancel the execution order." Callan looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. "Majesty, you cannot simply let him go. He has touched the royal heirs. He is a Terran. His very presence is a contamination." "Then we shall turn the contamination into an asset," Malus said. She smiled, and for the first time it was not terrifying. It was amusing. "Noah Reddick, do you enjoy your work in the sanitation department?" "It pays the bills, Your Majesty." "I have a new position for you," she said. "The royal nursery has gone through 5 caretakers in 2 months. The scions are spirited. They require a handler who can withstand their energy without resorting to magic or fear. You seem durable." Noah blinked. "Wait. You want me to babysit?" "I want you to be the caretaker of the royal litter," Malus corrected. "You will reside here. You will ensure they are fed, washed, and trained in the basics of discipline until they are old enough for the War Academy. You will answer Captain Rhea." "This is insanity," Callan shouted, losing his composure entirely. "A human raising the future kings and queens of Lunaris. He will teach them weakness. He will teach them to be prey." "He will teach them how to sleep through the night," Malus said sharply, "which is something no Luperi master has managed to achieve. Do you accept, Noah Reddick?" Noah looked at the pile of alien children on top of him. He looked at Callan, whose eyes promised murder. He looked at Rhea, who was watching him with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. If he refused, he would be sent back to the mines or deported to Earth. Earth, where the air was gray, and his sister was coughing in a filtered room. Here, the air was clean. The pay would surely be better. And honestly, the pups were the only things on this planet that didn't look at him like he was garbage. "Does it come with dental?" Noah asked. The first week of Noah's new life was a lesson in chaos theory. He was given a room adjacent to the main sleeping quarters of the nursery. It was nicer than his entire apartment back in the workers' district. He had a real bed, a private fresher unit, and a window that looked out over the silver dusk forest, rather than a ventilation shaft. He did not get to use the bed much. "No," Noah said firmly, holding a plate of steaming roast avian meat out of reach. "You eat the protein mash first, then you get the bird." 6 pairs of golden eyes stared up at him from the low table. The pups were in humanoid form, sitting on cushions. They were refusing to touch the scientifically balanced, nutrient-dense paste the royal dietitians had prepared. "It smells like feet," Frost declared. She was the vocal one. "It builds strong bones," Noah countered. "I want the bread," Scout whispered. "The sweet bread from your pocket." Noah froze. "I do not have sweet bread in my pocket. That is contraband." Scout sniffed the air, his nose twitching. "Blueberry, stale, 3 days old," Noah sighed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the flattened, crumbling pastry he had saved from his breakfast ration. "Fine. If you eat the green stuff, we split the muffin. Deal." The negotiation was successful. The royal heirs choked down their vegetables with the enthusiasm of prisoners of war, all for a crumb of dry human pastry. It wasn't just the food. It was the energy. The scions were predators. They didn't play tag. They played hunt the weakest sibling. They didn't draw pictures. They shredded tapestries to see how the fabric sounded when it ripped. Noah had to adapt. He treated them like a squad of raw recruits, but with more hugs. "All right, listen up," Noah barked one afternoon, standing in the center of the play garden. The pups were currently trying to dig a tunnel to the center of the moon. "Formation Alpha eyes on me." Surprisingly, they listened. The tone of command was something they understood instinctively. They scrambled out of the dirt hole, shaking debris from their fur, and lined up. "Iron, stop biting your sister's ear. Halo, tie your boots. Wait, you do not have boots. Put your socks back on. Today, we are learning tactical stealth. The objective is to sneak past the kitchen droids and retrieve a pitcher of water without triggering the motion sensors. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, Packheart," they chorused. Noah smiled. It was exhausted, crooked, and genuine. "Move out." From the balcony above, Captain Rhea, Solon, watched. She stood with her arms crossed, her face unreadable. "He treats them like soldiers," she muttered to herself. "He treats them like children who need boundaries," Queen Malus replied, stepping up beside her. "How is the surveillance going, Captain?" "He has made no contact with off-world channels," Rhea reported. "He spends 18 hours a day with the scions. The other 6 he sleeps, usually with at least 2 of them sneaking into his bed." "And his character?" Rhea hesitated. She watched Noah scoop up Scout, who had tripped over his own tail, and checked the pup's knees for scrapes. The gentleness in the human's hands was at odds with the brutal scars that marred his skin. "He is complicated," Rhea admitted. "He is hiding something, Majesty. Not a plot, perhaps, but pain. A great deal of it." "Keep watching him, Rhea," the Queen said softly. "Pain can make a man a monster, or it can make him a savior. We need to know which one he is before the treaty delegation arrives." The monitoring meant that Rhea was essentially Noah's shadow. Where he went, she went. When he took the pups to the training yard, she stood guard at the gate. When he sat with them in the library reading Terran fairy tales that he had to heavily censor to make them less violent, she leaned against the bookshelves listening. At first, the silence between them was jagged. Noah knew she was waiting for him to slip up. She knew he was a former enemy combatant. The thaw began on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning. Noah was awake. He was always awake at 3. It was the hour his leg hurt the most, a phantom burning that medicine couldn't touch. He was sitting in the common room of the nursery, staring at the dying embers of the fire, a mug of herbal tea in his hand. Rhea walked in on her rounds. She paused when she saw him. She was not in her armor, but in a simple training tunic. It made her look smaller, less like a statue of war, and more like a person. "You are not sleeping," she stated. Bad habit, Noah said. He didn't look up. Insomnia comes with the veteran package. No extra charge. Rhea walked over and sat in the armchair opposite him. She moved with a liquid grace that Noah envied. Is it the leg, among other things? You walk on it well enough, she said. Most humans would be in a chair. I am stubborn. You are proud, Rhea corrected. There is a difference. She gestured to the sleeping quarters where the pups were piled in a heap of snoring fur. They like you. It is unsettling. They like that I don't expect them to be majestic, Noah said. Everyone else looks at them and sees the future rulers. I just see kids who need their noses wiped. Rhea looked at him, her amber eyes catching the firelight. You speak of children often. Did you have any on Earth? Noah's hand tightened on the mug. The ceramic grew hot against his palm. No children. A wife, once. Where is she? She died, Noah said. The words were flat stones dropping into a deep well. During the siege of Chicago, collateral damage. A Luperi orbital strike missed the military manufacturing plant and hit the residential block. She was buying groceries. The silence that followed was heavy. Rhea stiffened. This was the elephant in the room, the blood between their species. I am sorry, Rhea said. It was stiff, but not insincere. Don't be, Noah said, taking a sip of tea. It was war. I killed plenty of your people too, Captain. We are both covered in red. The only difference is you won, so you get to call your kills justice, and mine murder. Rhea bristled, her ears flattening. We fought to reclaim our ancestral system. The Terran Coalition were the invaders. I know, Noah said wearily. I know the history books, Captain. I'm not arguing politics, I'm just saying dead is dead. It doesn't matter who fired the shot. Just then, a whimper came from the bedroom. Noah was up before Rhea could blink. He abandoned his tea and limped quickly into the darkened room. Rhea followed silently. Scout was thrashing in his sleep, his small claws, digging into the mattress. He was caught in a nightmare, a common occurrence for young Luperi, whose pack-mind connection was still stabilizing. He was whimpering a sound of pure distress. Rhea moved to wake him, but Noah stopped her with a hand on her arm. Don't startle him, Noah whispered. If you wake him violently, the fear stays. You have to guide him out. Noah sat on the edge of the bed. He placed one large scarred hand on the pup's heaving chest and the other on his forehead. He leaned down and began to hum. It wasn't a song. It was a low, rhythmic vibration deep in his chest. Easy, Scout. Easy now. You're in the den. You're safe. I've got the watch. Nothing gets past me. The pup's breathing hitched. He leaned into Noah's touch, seeking the warmth. Noah kept humming, stroking the fur between the pup's ears. Slowly, the thrashing stopped. Scout let out a long sigh and settled back into deep sleep, his hand clutching Noah's thumb. Noah stayed there for 5 minutes, just breathing, keeping the anchor steady. When he finally stood up and turned around, he found Rhea watching him. Her expression had changed. The suspicion was gone, replaced by a profound confusion. You hate us, Rhea whispered. We killed your mate. We occupied your world. Yet you comfort our young as if they were your own. Noah looked at the sleeping pups. They didn't fire the orbital cannons, Rhea. They're just kids. And I'm just tired of the hate. It takes too much energy to keep it burning. He walked past her, back to the common room. I'm going to try to sleep. Good night, Captain. Rhea stood in the dark for a long time, listening to the sound of the human's uneven footsteps fading away. While the nursery settled into a strange domestic peace, the shadows in the citadel were lengthening. High Steward Callan Maris did not sleep. He paced his private chambers, the walls lined with tapestries depicting the glorious victories of the Luperi over the hairless apes of Earth. He held a glass of wine that cost more than Noah's lifetime earnings, but it tasted like vinegar. The report, Callan snapped. A figure stepped out of the alcove. It was a minor noble, Lord Vane, who served as the deputy of security. "The human has made no mistakes, High Steward. The children are thriving. Their test scores in history and strategy have actually improved. He is using game theory to teach them tactics." Callan hurled his glass against the wall. It shattered, splashing red wine like blood. "I do not care about their test scores," Callan hissed. "Do you not see the danger, Vane? If the scions grow up loving a human, the pack mind will change. The hatred, the holy fire that binds us together will dilute. We will become weak. We will forgive them. And if we forgive them, we lose our identity." "The treaty signing is in 10 days, Vane reminded him. "General Hart Rowan is arriving with a Terran delegation. If the treaty is signed, the human presence on Lunaris will be permanent." Callan smiled, a thin, cruel curving of his lips. "Hart Rowan, the butcher of Sector 9. Yes, I recall him." He walked to his desk and tapped a sequence into the holographic terminal. A file appeared. It was a security schematic for the Royal Nursery. "The human Noah claims he has no technology," Callan said softly. "But accidents happen, systems fail, and if the Royal Scions were to vanish, or be harmed on the very eve of the treaty signing—" "You would risk the heirs?" Vane asked, horrified. "I would risk anything to save the soul of my species," Callan said. "We need a catalyst. We need a tragedy that bears the unmistakable fingerprint of humanity. We need the Queen to see that her pet human is not a guardian, but a sleeper agent waiting for his moment." Callan pulled a small black chip from his robe. "Take this. Give it to the technician who services the nursery's atmospheric scrubbers. Tell him it is a diagnostic upgrade. Tell him nothing else." Vane took the chip. "And if the human interferes, then the human dies," Callan said. "A tragic casualty of a Terran sabotage plot. He will be a martyr for our cause, proof that humans can never be trusted." Noah did not know about the chip, but he knew the smell of trouble. It was the nightmares that brought it back. Not the pup's nightmares, but his own. As the weeks passed and he grew closer to the wolves, his guard dropped. And when his guard dropped, the memories of Sector 9 surged in. He was napping on the terrace one afternoon, iron and ember, using his stomach as a trampoline when the sun hit his eyelids in a specific way. The orange light. Suddenly, he wasn't in the Citadel. He was back in the mud of Sector 9. The radio crackled. "Fire on the coordinates, Sergeant. Level the structure." Noah looked through his scope. The building wasn't a bunker. It was a school. He saw the shapes of small Luperi huddled in the basement. He saw a teacher holding them. "Negative command. Civilians present. I repeat, targets are non-combatants." "Your orders are absolute, Reddick. That is an insurgent breeding ground. Clear it out." The voice on the radio was cold, detached. It was General Hart Rowan. Noah knew that voice. It was the voice of a man who looked at a spreadsheet of casualties and felt nothing. "I won't do it," Noah said. "Then step aside, Sergeant." The artillery strike didn't come from Noah's squad. It came from orbit. Noah had screamed, tackling the nearest Luperi civilian, an old female, into a drainage ditch, just as the world turned white. Noah woke up, gasping, his hands clutching the stone of the terrace. "Packard." It was Ember. She was staring at him, her ears laid back. "You smell like burning." Noah sat up, wiping cold sweat from his face. The pack mind. They were feeling his memories. He had to be careful. He clamped down on his mind, building the mental walls he had practiced for years. "I'm okay, Ember," he lied. "Just a bad dream." "Was it the loud fire?" Ember asked. "We heard the loud fire in your head." Noah pulled her close, burying his face in her fur to hide his shaking hands. "It was a long time ago. It can't hurt you. But it could. Because the man who ordered that fire was coming here." News had spread through the Citadel that morning. The Terran delegation list had been finalized. Leading the diplomatic mission was High General Hart Rowan, now hailed as the Architect of Peace. The irony tasted like bile in Noah's throat. The man who had stripped Noah of his rank, who had branded him a coward and a traitor for refusing to murder children, was coming to shake hands with the Queen. "Something is wrong," Rhea said. She had appeared silently behind him. Noah didn't turn. "The general is coming." "You know him." It wasn't a question. "I served under him," Noah said. "If you can call it serving. He's a politician in a uniform, Rhea. He doesn't care about peace. He cares about his legacy." "And you?" Rhea asked. "What do you care about?" Noah looked at the 6 pups who were now chasing a butterfly near the edge of the roof. "I care that they don't grow up to be like him. Or like Kalen." Rhea stepped closer. She hesitated, then reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was heavy, warm, and startlingly gentle. "Then we will protect them," she said. "Together." It was the first time she had used the word "we" without meaning the royal guard. 3 days before the arrival of the delegation, the atmosphere in the citadel grew brittle. Banners were hung red for humanity and silver for Lunaris. The tension was palpable. Noah was doing a perimeter check of the nursery, a habit he couldn't break when he saw it. He was in the maintenance corridor that ran behind the main sleeping chamber. A panel on the wall was slightly askew. It was the atmospheric control node. Noah knelt down, his mechanic instincts kicking in. He pulled a screwdriver from his belt and pried the panel open. Inside, bypassed into the main circuit, was a foreign device. It was a black chip pulsating with a faint green light. It wasn't Terran tech. It was Luperi, but modified. "What are you doing?" Noah spun around. It was a technician he didn't recognize, a young Luperi with shifting eyes. "Just checking the airflow," Noah said, standing up slowly, blocking the panel with his body. "Who are you? I haven't seen you on the roster." "I am new," the technician stammered. "Emergency maintenance." "Right," Noah said. "Emergency." He lunged. The technician was fast, but Noah had fought in the trenches. He didn't use grace. He used gravity. He tackled Luperi, slamming him against the wall. The technician snarled, shifting his face into a wolf's muzzle, and snapped at Noah's throat. Noah blocked with his forearm, the prosthetic one. The teeth clanged against metal. Noah used the leverage to twist the technician's arm behind his back. "Rhea!" Noah shouted. Rhea was there in seconds. She didn't ask questions. She saw the struggle and subdued the technician with a precise nerve pinch that dropped him unconscious. "Explain," she breathed, looking at Noah. Noah stepped aside and pointed to the open panel. "Someone rigged the air scrubbers. That chip looks like a dampener. It suppresses the sensors." Rhea's face went cold. "If the sensors are down, the wards won't trigger. Someone could walk in here and take the scions without the alarm sounding." "Or bring something in," Noah said grimly. "Like a bomb. Or a toxin." Rhea looked at the unconscious technician, then at the device. "We need to report this to the High Steward." "No." Noah grabbed her wrist. "Think, Rhea. A random technician doesn't get access codes to this level. He had help. High-level help." Rhea stared at him. The implication hung in the air. Kalen. "If we go to Kalen, this evidence disappears," Noah said. "And I disappear with it." "Then what do we do?" "We hold the line," Noah said. "We double the guard. You trust your personal squad, right?" "With my life." "Good. Because until that treaty is signed, no one comes in or out of this nursery unless they go through us. Not even the steward." Rhea looked at the device, then at Noah. She saw the soldier in him, the man who had held the line at Sector 9. She nodded. "Agreed." But as they dragged the technician away to a private holding cell, Noah felt a cold dread settling in his gut. The game had changed. It wasn't just about politics anymore. It was a kidnapping plot, or worse. And outside the Citadel walls, the shuttle carrying General Hart Rowan began its descent through the atmosphere. The man who had haunted Noah's nightmares was here. And Noah had a terrible feeling that the general and the steward were playing the same game. The pups were sleeping in the next room, oblivious to the knives sharpening in the dark. Noah checked his prosthetic arm, testing the servos. "Sleep tight, little wolves," he whispered. "Daddy's home." The arrival of the Terran Coalition delegation was a spectacle of calculated humility and veiled power. The shuttle, a gleaming construct of white, ceramic, and hyperglass, descended through the violet atmosphere of Lunaris Reach, like a falling star that had learned to pump the brakes. It landed on the grand obsidian plaza, with a whisper of anti-gravity engines kicking up zero dust. Noah Reddick stood in the shadows of the colonnade, gripping his broom until his knuckles turned white. He was technically on duty, assigned to sweep the already pristine walkway, but his eyes were fixed on the shuttle ramp. The hatch hissed open. A regiment of Coalition honor guards marched out, their dress uniforms crisp, their pulse rifles slung precisely over their left shoulders. And then, walking with the easy, terrifying grace of a man who believes he owns the ground he steps on, comes High General Hart Rowan. He had not aged. That was Noah's first thought. It had been 5 years since the massacre at Sector 9, 5 years since Noah had stood in the mud and screamed at this man over the comms. But Hart looked exactly the same. He was handsome in a way that tested well with focus groups, square jaw, salt and pepper hair eyes that crinkled with an apparently genuine warmth. He wore no armor, just a diplomat suit of dark blue synthweave. "Welcome to the Citadel, General," Queen Malus Moonfang said. She stood at the base of the ramp, flanked by High Steward Callan and Captain Rhea. She was in her humanoid form, tall and regal, but her shadow stretched long and wolf-like across the stone. "Your Majesty," Hart bowed a perfect 45-degree angle. "The honor is entirely mine. We come seeking not just peace, but brotherhood." Noah felt bile rise in his throat. He stepped back, intending to vanish into the service corridors. He did not want to be seen. He did not want to be remembered. But fate, as Noah had learned, had a cruel sense of humor. As the procession moved toward the Great Hall, a young page dropped a ceremonial data slate. It clattered loudly on the stone. Noah, acting on pure reflex, stepped out to retrieve it before the general could trip. He bent down, picked up the slate, and handed it to the terrified page. As he straightened up, he found himself face to chest with Hart Rowan. The general stopped. The smile froze on his face, not disappearing, but turning brittle. He looked at Noah's gray maintenance tunic, then at the scar running down his jaw, and finally into his eyes. Recognition sparked cold and sharp. "Well," Hart said softly, his voice smooth enough to slide on ice. "I never thought I would see the hero of Sector 9 holding a broom." Noah kept his face blank. "I am just a janitor, General." Hart chuckled, clapping a hand on Noah's shoulder. The grip was tight, digging into the muscle. "Modesty always was your flaw, Sergeant Reddick. Or is it just Mr. Reddick now?" He turned to the Queen, who was watching the exchange with narrowed eyes. "Your Majesty, this man served under me. A complicated soldier, but efficient." "He serves the crown now," Malus said neutrally. "So I see," Hart replied. He leaned in close to Noah, lowering his voice so only they could hear. "You look good in gray, Noah. It suits you better than a uniform. Less responsibility, less collateral damage to worry about." "I sleep fine at night, Hart," Noah whispered back, dropping the honorifics. "Do you?" Hart's eyes were dead. "That makes one of us. I am here to finish the job, Noah. Stay out of the way, or I will bury you under the peace treaty." Hart patted his shoulder again, harder this time, and walked on. Noah stood frozen as the procession swept past. He felt cold, despite the heat of the twin suns. Beside him, Rhea lingered for a second. "You know him," she murmured. "He is the one who gave the order," Noah said, his voice hollow. "He is the one who burned the village." Rhea looked at the retreating back of the general, her hand drifting to her sidearm. "Then why is he here speaking of brotherhood?" "Because," Noah said, War is just business, and Hart Rowan is here to close a deal. 3 hours later, in the deepest, most soundproof chamber of the guest wing, the deal was being brokered. High Steward, Callan Maris, poured a glass of amber liquid for the general. The room was dimly lit, illuminated only by the bioluminescent moss in the wall sconces. "The Queen is soft," Callan said, his voice dripping with disdain. "She believes that coexistence is possible. She believes that if we let your people mine the outer asteroids, you will leave our sacred moon alone." Hart took the glass, swirling the liquid. "And you disagree." "I know the appetite of humanity," Callan said. "You will not stop at the asteroids. You will want the core. You will want the culture. You will dilute us until we are nothing but zoo animals in your galactic empire." "You are not wrong," Hart admitted, taking a sip. "The coalition is hungry. Resources are scarce back home. Peace is expensive. War, however, stimulates the economy." "We have a mutual problem," Callan said, leaning forward. "Peace ruins you. Peace ruins me. If the treaty is signed tomorrow, I lose my influence over the pack mind. The people will stop fearing the outside, and you become a retired general in a world that does not need soldiers." Hart smiled. It was a shark's smile. "So, we need a spark." "An atrocity," Callan corrected. "Something unforgivable. Something that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that humans are treacherous monsters who eat children." "The Scions," Hart stated. "Precisely. The Queen has appointed a human guardian for them. That fool Reddick. It is poetic, really. The perfect scapegoat." "Noah," Hart mused. "He always did have a bleeding heart. It makes him predictable." "My agents have disabled the nursery's peripheral sensors," Callan said. "Tonight, during the state banquet, the nursery will be empty of guards. The Queen insisted on a minimal presence to show trust to your delegation. My men will enter. We will take the cubs. We will leave a trail leading straight to the human quarters. And then, Hart finished, we found the bodies. Tragic. A human soldier driven mad by PTSD takes revenge on the royal line. The treaty collapses. The coalition is forced to invade to stabilize the region. And I am back in command." "And I," Callan whispered, "am the only one strong enough to lead the Luperi in a holy war." They clinked glasses. The sound was like the tolling of a funeral bell. Noah was not at the banquet. He was in the nursery because that was where he belonged. He had put the pups down for their nap an hour ago. They were restless tonight, picking up on the tension in the Citadel air. The pack-mine static was choppy, like a radio tuned between stations. "Story," Scout had demanded, clutching Noah's finger. "The one about the starship that ate the moon." "That is the very hungry caterpillar, Scout," Noah had whispered. "And go to sleep. I will be right outside." He was sitting on the terrace now, watching the stars. He checked his chrono. 1900 hours. The banquet was in full swing. A sudden beep from his comms unit made him jump. It was a text message, encrypted. Sender, unknown message. "Meet me in Sector 4, Maintenance. I have intel on Hart." Noah stared at the screen. It was likely a trap. But it was Hart. If there was evidence, if there was a way to bring him down, he looked back at the sleeping chamber. The door was locked. The wards were up, or so he thought. Rhea had posted 2 of her best guards at the main elevator. "Just 10 minutes, Noah muttered. "I will go check it out and come back." He grabbed his tool belt and limped toward the service hatch. The maintenance sector was empty. Noah waited for 15 minutes. No one came. The silence was heavy, oppressive. "Damn it," Noah hissed. "Stupid." He turned and ran back, ignoring the pain in his leg. He ran through the tunnels, up the ladders, bursting onto the nursery level. The silence hit him first. It wasn't the peaceful silence of sleeping children. It was a dead silence. The 2 guards at the elevator were gone. Not dead, just gone. Noah sprinted to the sleeping chamber. He slammed his hand against the biometric scanner. It flashed green. The door slid open. The room was empty. The 6 small beds were rumpled. A stuffed toy, a ragged rabbit Noah had sewn for Frost, lay on the floor. But the smell, Noah fell to his knees gagging. It wasn't ozone. It was a sickly, sweet chemical stench. Neuroparalytic gas. Military grade. Terran make. "No," Noah whispered. "No, no, no." He scrambled into the room, checking under the beds, checking the closet. Nothing. "Rhea!" he screamed into his comms. "Rhea, get to the nursery now!" He ran to the terrace. The wind whipped his hair. He looked over the edge. Nothing but the dizzying drop to the city below. "Human!" the voice boomed from the doorway. Noah spun around. High Steward Callan stood there, flanked by 10 heavily armed guards. He pointed a trembling finger at Noah. "Seize him!" Callan shouted. "He has sold the scions to his masters!" "You son of a bitch!" Noah roared. He didn't think so. He charged. He was 45 years old, crippled and armed with a screwdriver. The guards were elite Luperi warriors. It wasn't a fight. It was a demolition. A rifle butt slammed into Noah's stomach, doubling him over. Another struck his jaw. He hit the floor, tasting blood. "Where are they?" Noah choked out, spitting a tooth onto the mosaic. "What did you do with them?" "I," Callan sneered, stepping over Noah. "You are the one with the motive. You are the one who disabled the wards. We found the jamming device in your quarters, Reddick, along with a transfer order for 50,000 credits from a coalition account." "Liar," Noah wheezed. "Take him to the secure wing," Callan ordered. "The Queen will want to interrogate him before we execute him." Noah was thrown into a room in the North Tower. It wasn't a cell. It was a guest room that had been stripped of everything sharp. He paced the floor, limping heavily. His face was swelling up. They were gone. The pups were gone. He could feel the absence in his head, a gaping hole, where the warm hum of the pack-mind used to be. It was like losing a limb. The door chimed. It slid open. Noah braced himself for a fight, but it was Captain Rhea. She looked frantic. Her armor was scuffed, her helmet gone. She locked the door behind her and jammed the panel with an override key. "Where are they?" Noah asked immediately. "Gone," Rhea said, her voice shaking. "A transport shuttle left the airspace 20 minutes ago. Unregistered. Stealth capability." "Callan did it," Noah said. "He is working with Hart. It is a setup, Rhea. They are going to kill the kids and blame me for starting a war." Rhea looked at him. Callan showed the Queen the evidence. The money transfer. The jammer. "You know I didn't do it," Noah said. He looked her in the eye. "You watched me. You know me." Rhea stared at him for a long second. Then she exhaled a sharp sound. The jammer was Luperi tech. The money transfer was dated for tomorrow. It was sloppy work. But the Queen is panicked. She is not thinking clearly. "We have to find them," Noah said. "If that shuttle went into orbit, they are gone. But if they are still on the planet—" "They are," Rhea said. "I tracked the ion trail. It did not go up. It went north, toward the Silver Dusk Forest." "The Badlands," Noah said. "Why there?" "Because sensors do not work in the Silver Dusk," Rhea said. "The magnetic interference is too high. It is the perfect place to hide something you do not want found." "We have to go," Noah said, moving toward the door. "Noah, the entire Citadel is on lockdown. There are guards at every exit looking for you." "I don't care," Noah snapped. "They are my kids too." He stopped. He hadn't meant to say it, but it hung in the air, true and heavy. Rhea's expression softened. She reached into a duffel bag she had slung over her shoulder. She pulled out a heavy pulse pistol and a cloak. "Put this on," she said. "I am not arresting you. I am kidnapping you." "What?" "I am taking the prisoner for a tactical transfer to a more secure facility," Rhea said, a grim smile touching her lips. "If anyone asks, you are subdued. Try to look pathetic." "I don't have to try," Noah grunted, pulling the cloak over his bruised face. The escape was not elegant. It involved a service elevator, a very tense confrontation with two junior guards who were terrified of Rhea, and a crawl through a waste disposal chute that smelled worse than Noah's nightmares. They emerged at the base of the citadel, near the drainage outflows. The forest of silver dusk stretched out before them, a sea of towering twisted trees, with leaves that glowed a faint, ghostly blue. "We are outlaws now," Rhea said, checking the charge on her rifle. "If we return without the scions, we will be executed for treason." "If we don't return with them," Noah said, "there won't be a citadel left to execute us." They moved into the trees. The forest was alive, not in the passive way of earth forests, but aggressively alive. Vines curled toward their body heat. Insects the size of dinner plates buzzed in the canopy. The air was thick with spores. Noah took the lead. He didn't have a map, but he had something better. "Can you feel them?" Rhea asked. Noah closed his eyes. He concentrated. The static in his head was deafening, but underneath it, faint as a heartbeat underwater, was a signal. Fear, cold, confusion. "They are alive," Noah whispered. "Weak, sedated, but alive. They are that way." He pointed northwest toward a jagged ridge of rock. "That is the Widow's Tooth," Rhea said. "Old mining tunnels, abandoned a century ago." "Perfect place for a trap," Noah said. They marched for 2 hours. The terrain was brutal. Noah's leg was burning with every step, a lance of fire shooting up his hip. He stumbled once, falling into a patch of razor fern. Rhea hauled him up. "Lean on me." "I'm fine," Noah gritted out. "You are an idiot," Rhea said, pulling his arm over her shoulder. Her armor was hard, but her arm around his waist was strong. "We share the load. That is the packway." Noah looked at her. In the bioluminescent light, her eyes were pools of molten gold. "Why are you doing this, Rhea? You are the captain of the guard. You follow orders." "I follow the queen," Rhea said. "But the queen is blinded by fear. And," she hesitated, "when I saw you sleeping with them, when I saw you holding Scout during his nightmare, I realized something." "What?" "That honor is not about blood," she said. "It is about who stays when the darkness comes. You stayed, Noah, even when you could have run. So I am staying with you." Noah swallowed the lump in his throat. "Let's go get our pups." They reached the Widow's Tooth, just as the larger of the two moons began to set. The entrance to the mine was guarded by two figures in stealth armor. They weren't wearing Royal Guard crests. They wore the emblem of the Iron Fang, a radical mercenary group that Callan had supposedly disbanded years ago. "Two guards visible," Noah whispered, crouching behind a boulder. "Probably more inside." "I can take the left one," Rhea whispered back. "Can you shoot?" "I was a sniper before I was a sergeant," Noah said, checking the unfamiliar pistol Rhea had given him. "But I prefer not to kill if I can avoid it. It makes the paperwork messy." "These men kidnap children," Rhea growled. "There will be no paperwork." She moved. She was a blur of motion faster than any human eye could track. She hit the left guard before he even raised his rifle. A sickening crunch of bone echoed in the clearing. The second guard spun around, raising his weapon. Noah fired. The shot took the guard in the shoulder, spinning him around. Noah fired again, hitting the weapon, shattering it. "Clear!" Rhea called out. They advanced into the tunnel. It was dark, damp, and smelled of rot. But deeper in there was light. And voices. "Told you the dose was too high. The gray one is not waking up." "Doesn't matter. They just need to be breathing when we record the video. Then we dump them." Noah's blood turned to ice. He looked at Rhea. She had heard it too. Her lips peeled back in a silent snarl. They crept forward until they reached the main cavern. It was a large excavation site. In the center, surrounded by portable floodlights, was a heavy durasteel cage. Inside, huddled together in a pile of gray fur, were the 6 pups. They were motionless. Around the cage stood 6 mercenaries. One of them was setting up a camera tripod. Another was holding a datapad, presumably preparing the fake message. And in the corner, supervising, was a human. It was Colonel Vance Hart Rowan's right-hand man. "Get the lighting right," Vance ordered. "I want the shadows to look dramatic. We need to sell the crazed hermit's lair aesthetic." "That is my former XO," Noah whispered. "Vance." "How do we do this?" Rhea asked. 6 against 2. "We need a distraction," Noah said. He looked at the lighting rig. It was powered by a portable fusion generator. "Can you hit that generator from here?" Rhea raised her rifle. "I can hit a fly from here." "On my mark," Noah said. "Hit the lights. I'll go for the cage. You cover me." "Noah, that is suicide." "You have no armor." "I have motivation," Noah said. "Mark." Rhea fired. The generator exploded in a shower of sparks. The floodlights died, instantly plunging the cavern into pitch blackness. "Contact!" Vance screamed. "Fire blindly!" Laser blasts erupted, crisscrossing the dark. Noah didn't run. He slid. He stayed low, moving by memory and instinct. He scrambled over the loose rock, ignoring the chaotic fire above his head. He reached the cage. He fumbled for the lock. It was electronic. "Damn it!" he hissed. He smashed the butt of his pistol against the keypad. It sparked, but didn't open. A flashlight beam swept over him. "There!" a mercenary shouted. A heavy boot slammed into Noah's ribs. He went flying, landing hard on his back. A mercenary stood over him, a vibroblade raised. "Die, traitor!" the mercenary hissed. Noah raised his arm to block, bracing for the end. A shadow tore the mercenary away. It was Rhea. She was a whirlwind of claws and fury, ripping the armor off the attacker. "Get them out!" Rhea screamed, engaging 2 more guards who rushed her. Noah scrambled back to the cage. He grabbed the bars with his bare hands. He didn't have a code. He didn't have a key. But he could feel them. Frost, Ember, Scout. They were waking up. The noise had stirred them. He felt their fear spike, a jagged red panic in his mind. "It's me," Noah shouted, pressing his forehead against the cold metal bars. "It's Noah, wake up." Something happened then. It wasn't magic. It wasn't technology. It was a connection. The pack mind didn't just connect Luperi to Luperi. It connected the pack to the Alpha. And in that moment, terrified and desperate, the pups didn't reach for the queen. They didn't reach for Rhea. They reached for the one who held them when they had nightmares. Noah felt a physical slam in his chest. The static in his head exploded into a supernova of clarity. The cage bars didn't matter. The darkness didn't matter. He gasped, his eyes rolling back. Suddenly, he wasn't just looking at the cage. He was watching from the cage. He saw himself, a battered, bleeding human, clutching the bars through 6 different pairs of eyes. He saw the heat signatures of the mercenaries. He saw the structural weakness of the lock. He felt the vibration of the floor. "Packheart," the voices whispered in his head. Not words, but pure meaning. Danger. Enemy. Protect. "Break it," Noah commanded. He didn't speak with his mouth. He spoke with his mind. Inside the cage, the 6 pups howled in unison. Their eyes glowed with a terrifying violet light. They slammed their small bodies against the door simultaneously, guided by Noah's tactical understanding of the lock's weak point. Crack. The lock shattered. The door swung open. "Attack," Noah ordered. The pups poured out. They weren't clumsy children anymore. They were a unit. Guided by Noah's soldier mind, they moved with military precision. Frost and Ember went for the ankles of the mercenary, shooting at Rhea. Iron and Halo swarmed Vance, knocking the weapon from his hand. Noah stood up. He felt drunk with power. He could see everything. He knew where every enemy was. He was the conductor of a symphony of violence. "Rhea, 3 o'clock!" Noah shouted, seeing a mercenary flanking her through Scout's eyes. Rhea spun, firing without looking, taking the target down. It was over in 30 seconds. The mercenaries were groaning on the floor. Vance was pinned under Iron, who was growling inches from his throat. Noah slumped against the cage, the connection fading slightly, leaving him with a splitting headache. Noah, Rhea rushed to him. She checked him for wounds. "Are you hit?" "I'm fine," Noah gasped. "Just dizzy." The pups abandoned their prisoners and swarmed Noah. They licked his face, his hands whining softly. "Safe," Frost chirped. "Packheart safe." Rhea stared at him, her eyes wide. "I felt it. The flare. You commanded them. Through the pack mind." "I don't know what I did," Noah said. "I just showed them where to bite." He looked at Vance. The colonel was bleeding from a scalp wound, looking terrified. "Get up," Noah said, his voice cold. "We have a wedding to crash." The great hall of the Citadel was resplendent. Thousands of dignitaries, Luperi and human, stood in rows. The air smelled of expensive incense and lies. On the dais, General Hart Rowan stood beside Queen Malis. He held a stylus poised over the parchment of the treaty. "This marks a new dawn," Hart was saying, his voice amplified for the crowd. "A dawn where we leave the barbarism of the past behind." Behind him, a large holographic screen flickered to life. Hart smiled. This was it. The footage of the dead pups was supposed to play now. Instead, the heavy doors of the great hall groaned. "Boom!" They shuddered. "Boom!" The entire assembly turned. With a final grinding screech of metal, the doors were blasted open. Noah Reddick stood there. He looked like a nightmare. His tunic was torn, stained with mud and blood. His face was a mask of bruises. He held a pulse rifle in one hand, but he was not alone. In his other arm, he held Scout. And around his legs, teeth-bared hackles raised, stood the other 5 royal scions. Rhea stepped out from behind him, dragging a bound and gagged Colonel Vance. The silence in the hall was absolute. "General!" Noah's voice rang out raw and furious. It carried without amplification. "You forgot something." Hart Rowan dropped the stylus. His face went ashen. High Steward Kalen, standing to the side, looked like he had seen a ghost. "Guards, kill the intruder. He has kidnapped the—" "Shut up," Queen Malis roared. Her voice shook the stained glass windows. She stared at Noah. She stared at her children, who were not cowering, but standing in a defensive phalanx around the human. Noah limped forward. The crowd parted for him, like the Red Sea. He didn't stop until he was at the foot of the dais. He looked up at Hart. "You wanted a show, General," Noah said, lifting his rifle and pointing it not at Hart, but at the holographic screen. "You wanted to show them what a monster looks like," he signaled to Rhea. Rhea shoved Vance forward. She ripped the gag from his mouth. "Tell them," Rhea commanded, her blade at Vance's throat. "Tell them who ordered the gas. Tell them who hired the Iron Fang." Vance looked at Hart, pleading. "General, I—" Hart's hand moved to his jacket pocket. A holdout pistol. Noah saw it. The pack mind saw it. "Don't even think about it," Noah growled. 5 pups let out a synchronized roar that sounded like a thunderclap. Their eyes glowed violet. The sheer psychic pressure hit Hart like a physical blow, forcing him to his knees. "He ordered it," Vance screamed. "Hart ordered it, and the steward. They wanted to frame the human. They wanted the war back." The hall erupted. Noah stood in the center of the chaos, his hand resting on Frost's head. He looked at Callan, who was trying to sneak away. "You," Noah said softly, but the pack mind carried his voice to every ear in the room. "You hurt my kids." It wasn't a statement. It was a promise of judgment. The great hall of the Citadel was a vacuum of silence. The echo of the blasted doors still rattled the crystal chandeliers, but the thousands of courtiers, diplomats, and warriors stood frozen, their eyes locked on the tableau at the entrance. Noah Reddick stood amidst the debris, a figure carved from exhaustion and fury. His maintenance tunic was shredded, revealing the carbon mesh undershirt and the dark bruising blooming across his ribs. He held the pulse rifle not with the aggression of a fanatic, but with the terrifying stability of a veteran sniper. Around him, the royal scions formed a living barricade. They were not the playful tumbling balls of fur the court was used to seeing in hologram greeting cards. They were wolves. Their lips were peeled back, exposing needle-sharp teeth. Their hackles were stiff ridges of aggression, and their eyes, usually golden and bright, were burning with a deep violet luminescence that pulsed in sync with the throbbing vein in Noah's temple. High Steward Callan Maris was the first to break the paralysis. He realized with the frantic speed of a drowning man that he had to control the narrative immediately. "Treason!" Callan shrieked, his voice cracking. He pointed a shaking finger at Noah. "The human has returned to finish the job. He has brainwashed the heirs. Look at them. They are rabid guards. Open fire, save the queen." The royal guard, confused and terrified, raised their weapons, but they hesitated. To shoot at the human meant shooting through the bodies of the princes and princesses. "Hold fire!" Captain Rhea Solon bellowed. She shoved Colonel Vance forward, forcing him to his knees on the obsidian floor. "Anyone who fires on the scions answers to me." "They are corrupted," Callan screamed, turning to the Terran delegation. "This is a coup. The human extremists are taking the throne." He gestured wildly to the holographic screen behind the dais. "Play the footage. Show them the truth." A technician, terrified and obeying the last order given, hit the console. The massive screen flickered to life. The video was high definition. It showed a dark, grainy scene of masked figures in human combat gear storming the nursery. It showed them dragging limp wolf pups into cages. It showed a figure clearly wearing a gray maintenance tunic laughing as he shocked a struggling pup with a prod. "You see," Callan cried, vindicated. "There is the monster." The crowd gasped. General Hart Rowan stepped forward, his face a mask of practiced sorrow. "It is a tragedy," Hart said, his voice amplified. "That one of my own former soldiers could sink so low." Noah did not shout. He did not defend himself against the video. He simply looked down at Frost, the gray female standing at his knee. "Frost," Noah said softly. "Tell them." Frost threw her head back. She did not howl. She let out a sound that was more like a resonant hum, a vibration that traveled through the floor and up into the bones of every living thing in the hall. The other 5 pups joined in. The sound grew louder, layering over itself, drowning out the audio of the fake video. Suddenly, the violet light in their eyes flared blindingly bright. The holographic screen behind Hart distorted. The fake video dissolved into static. Then, the image changed. It was not a recording. It was a live feed. It was the view from Noah's eyes just an hour ago. The crowd saw the dark cavern of the Widow's Tooth mine. They saw the mercenaries in Iron Fang armor. They saw Colonel Vance standing over the cage. They heard the audio, crisp and undeniable, filtered through the Pac-Mine's memory. "General Hart wants the bodies found by morning. Make it look like the human snapped. And the payment. The steward has already transferred the credits." The hallucination, or rather the shared memory, was absolute. Every person in the hall saw it. Every person heard it. The video cut out as the pups ceased their hum. General Hart Rowan stood frozen on the dais. The sorrow had vanished from his face, replaced by a look of calculating horror. He was not looking at Noah. He was looking at the exits. "That is a fabrication!" Callan yelled, though his voice was thinner now. "Mind magic! The human is a warlock! He is projecting lies!" Noah limped forward. The crowd parted for him, terrified of the violet energy radiating from the wolves at his feet. He stopped 10 yards from the dais. "I am not a warlock, Callan," Noah said. His voice was rough like gravel grinding together. "And I am not a hero. I am just a witness." He reached into his pocket. His hand came out holding a small battered data chip. It was old tech, scratched and worn. 5 years ago," Noah said, addressing the Queen directly, I was the sergeant in command of Platoon 4 at Sector 9. We were ordered to clear a hostile bunker. Hart's eyes snapped to the chip. "Don't," he warned. It was a low hiss, barely audible. Noah ignored him. "We were told it was a weapon depot. When I breached the door, I didn't find weapons. I found 32 civilians, mostly elderly, and cubs." Noah tossed the chip to Captain Rhea. She caught it out of the air and immediately slotted it into her datapad, linking it to the main display. "I called it in." Noah continued, his eyes locked on Hart. "I told command the coordinates were cold. I requested permission to withdraw." On the screen, a new audio log appeared, a waveform. Voice 1 Noah. Negative command. Targets are non-combatants. Requesting abort. Voice 2. Hart. Request denied, Sergeant. That location is a verified stronghold. Burn it. Voice 1. Sir, there are children down here. I am looking at them. Voice 2. They are not children, Sergeant. They are future combatants. If you do not fire, I will consider it an act of treason. Clear the sector. That is a direct order. Voice 1. I refuse. Platoon 4, stand down. I repeat, stand down. Voice 2. Then get out of the way, Sergeant. Artillery fire for effect. The silence that followed the recording was heavier than the stone walls of the citadel. "I couldn't save them all," Noah said, his voice breaking for the first time. "I got 6 of them out before the shells hit. But the rest..." He looked at Queen Melis. Her face was unreadable, a mask of marble, but tears were streaming silently down her cheeks. "General Rowan erased the logs," Noah said. "He listed the casualties as armed insurgents. He pinned the insubordination on me, claiming I had a mental break. He wanted to be a hero. Heroes don't kill babies." Hart Rowan straightened his jacket. He looked around the room, seeing the revulsion on the faces of both Luperi and humans. He realized the diplomatic game was over. "It was war," Hart said coldly. "It was necessary. We were losing ground. We needed to break their morale. And it worked, didn't it? We are standing here signing a peace treaty because I had the stomach to do what needed to be done." He pointed at Noah. "You are weak, Reddick. You always were. You value sentiment over survival." "Survival isn't worth much if you have to become a monster to keep it," Noah said. "Enough," Callan Maris stepped forward. He had lost the narrative, but he still had his fanatics. He pulled a jagged ceremonial dagger from his robes. "Do you not see? The human admits he defied orders to save Luperi. He seeks to weaken us with pity. He has corrupted the Scions with his pacifism. They are tainted." Callan's eyes were wild. He looked at the pups, the future of his species, with pure hatred. "If the root is rotten," Callan screamed, "the tree must be felled." He raised his hand. It was a signal. From the shadows of the colonnades, 20 members of the Crimson Guard fanatics, loyal only to the steward, stepped out. They raised heavy plasma casters. "Purge the unclean!" Callan shrieked. "Kill the human! Kill the tainted wolves!" "Protect the queen!" Rhea shouted, diving in front of Melis, just as the first bolt of plasma sizzled through the air. Chaos erupted. The great hall turned into a war zone. Dignitaries scrambled for cover, flipping heavy tables. The Royal Guard engaged the Crimson Fanatics, a blur of silver armor and red laser fire. Noah didn't run. He couldn't. He was the target. "Formation Delta," Noah roared. The pups didn't need to be told. They knew. Frost and Ember split left. Iron and Halo split right. Scout and Ash stayed tight to Noah's legs. A fanatic charged Noah, a vibro axe raised high. Noah raised his rifle, but before he could fire, he felt it. The pack mine didn't just open. It shattered the dam. Time seemed to slow down. Noah wasn't just seeing the fanatic. He was seeing the fanatic through 6 other pairs of eyes. He saw the muscle tension in the attacker's shoulder. He smelled the ozone of the charging weapon. He felt the vibration of boots on the floor behind him. He was not one man. He was 7 beings moving as a single organism, Left flank. 2 enemies. High ground. The thoughts weren't his, but they were. Frost low iron hamstring, Noah commanded, but his lips didn't move. The command was a psychic pulse. Frost drifted under the fanatic's guard, like smoke, snapping her jaws around his ankle. The fanatic stumbled. Noah stepped forward, calm amidst the madness, and slammed the butt of his rifle into the man's temple. Behind him, a sniper on the balcony took aim at Noah's back. Danger. Above. Noah spun around, raising his rifle and firing a single shot without aiming. The sniper fell. He hadn't seen the sniper with his own eyes. Scout had seen the reflection in a glass goblet. It was intoxicating. It was terrifying. Noah was the nexus of a predator storm. He felt the pups' aggression, their fear, their fierce burning loyalty. "Rhea, 3 o'clock!" Noah shouted, sensing a flanker moving toward the queen. Rhea spun and neutralized the threat. She looked at Noah for a split second, awe written on her face. He was glowing, not literally, but the air around him shimmered with violet heat. Callan saw his coup crumbling. His fanatics were being dismantled not by superior numbers, but by impossible coordination. The human was moving with the grace of a wolf. "Die!" Callan screamed. He grabbed a pulse pistol from a fallen guard and aimed it at Scout, the smallest target. Noah felt the intent before the trigger was pulled. "No!" The scream was psychic. It hit the room like a shock wave. Noah dropped his rifle. He sprinted. His bad leg didn't hurt. The pack mine carried him. He reached Scout, just as Callan fired. Noah didn't try to dodge. He threw himself over the pup. The plasma bolt hit Noah in the shoulder, the flesh shoulder, not the prosthetic. It burned through the tunic, cauterizing skin and muscle. Noah grunted, collapsing onto the floor, curling around Scout. "Packheart!" The scream came from 6 throats and 100 minds. The injury broke Noah's concentration, but it enraged the pack. Frost Ember, Iron Halo, and Ash did not attack Callan individually. They moved as a wave. They hit the High Steward with the force of a freight train. Callan went down screaming as 5 wolves pinned him to the floor. They didn't kill him. They held him. Iron had his jaws around Callan's throat, applying just enough pressure to keep him terrified, not enough to crush the windpipe. The Crimson Guard, seeing their leader pinned, and the demon human refusing to die, faltered. The Royal Guard swarmed them, disarming them efficiently. Silence fell over the hall again, broken only by the smell of ozone and burnt flesh. Noah rolled onto his back, clutching his shoulder. Scout was licking his face, frantically whining. "I'm okay, buddy," Noah wheezed, though his vision was graying out at the edges. "Just a scratch." He looked up. Rhea was there, applying a pressure bandage to his wound. Her hands were shaking. "You took a plasma bolt," she hissed. "You stupid, noble idiot." "Did we win?" Noah asked. "We won," Rhea said. "Not yet," Noah whispered. He sat up, pushing Rhea's hands away. "Where is he?" He scanned the room. General Hart Rowan was near the side exit, trying to blend in with the fleeing diplomats. "Iron," Noah commanded softly. "Fetch." Iron released Callan, leaving him to be arrested by the Royal Guard, and bounded across the room. He didn't bite Hart. He simply slammed into the general's legs, knocking him down. Noah stood up. He picked up a discarded pistol from the floor. He limped toward Hart. The crowd parted again. This time, there was no fear, only a heavy, respectful silence. Hart scrambled backward until he hit the wall. He looked up at Noah. The general's suit was ruined. His composure was gone. "Noah," Hart stammered. "Noah, listen. We can work this out. I have resources. I can get you a pardon. I can set you up for life." Noah raised the pistol. He aimed it right between Hart's eyes. His finger tightened on the trigger. Inside his head, the memories swirled. The face of his wife, buried under the rubble of Chicago. The faces of the children in Sector 9. The sight of the pups in that cage, drugged and helpless. Hart Rowan had cancer. As long as he lived, The war would never truly end. He was the architect of Noah's pain. "Do it," Hart whispered, a twisted smile appearing on his face. "Show them, Noah. Show them you are just like me. A killer. A soldier who cleans up the mess." Noah's hand trembled. The rage was a physical thing, a red tide trying to drown him. "Justice," the voice in his head screamed. "Revenge." Then he felt something else. A cold, wet nose pressed against his hand. It was Frost. She wasn't looking at Hart. She was looking at Noah. Her eyes were clear golden again. She wasn't growling. She was waiting. The pack mind was watching. Not just the pups, but the queen, the court, the guards. They were feeling his rage, yes. But they were also feeling his hesitation. If he pulled the trigger, he taught the pups that violence was the final answer. He proved Hart right, that power is the only truth. Noah took a deep breath. He let the red tide recede. He shifted his aim 6 inches to the right and fired. The bolt smashed into the stone wall inches from Hart's ear. Hart flinched, covering his head and whimpering. Noah lowered the gun. "I am not you," Noah said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "I don't kill for convenience, and I don't kill for pride." He turned to Queen Melis, who had descended from the dais. She looked at Noah with an expression that went beyond gratitude. It was reverence. "Your Majesty," Noah said, holstering the weapon. "I believe this man has committed crimes against both our species. I request a tribunal, a joint tribunal, public, transmitted to Earth and Lunaris." Melis nodded slowly. "Granted. General Hart Rowan is hereby a prisoner of the crown." Rhea stepped forward and hauled Hart to his feet. She slapped cuffs on him, Lupaire stasis cuffs, heavy and inescapable. "You have the right to remain silent," Rhea growled, channeling an old Earth movie she had once seen. "I suggest you use it." Noah watched them drag Hart away. He watched the Royal Guard haul a screaming Callan out the other door. The adrenaline finally ran out. Noah's knees buckled. He didn't hit the floor. 6 bodies caught him. The pups swarmed him, buoying him up with their fur and their strength. Rhea was there too, her arm around his waist. "I think," Noah mumbled, his head lolling against Rhea's shoulder, "that I am going to need a sick day tomorrow." "You can have 2, Rhea said softly. The days that followed were a blur of medical tanks and legal depositions. The Citadel was in upheaval. The arrest of the High Steward had decapitated the conservative faction. The revelation of the Sector 9 massacre had caused riots, then vigils, then a strange, somber reflection across the city. The treaty was suspended, of course. But the war did not restart. The image of a human shielding the royal scions from Lupari fanatics had been broadcast across the system. It was a complicated image. It didn't fit the propaganda of either side. Noah sat on the terrace of the nursery. His shoulder was bandaged, healing rapidly thanks to Lupari Regangel. He felt lighter. The secret he had carried for 5 years, the shame of Sector 9, was out. He wasn't hiding anymore. But he also felt naked. When he walked down the halls now, people didn't look away. They stared. They whispered. But not with malice. With a terrifying intimacy. They had felt his memories. They knew his grief. Strangers would nod at him with eyes that held too much understanding. "You are brooding," a voice said. Noah looked up. Queen Melis stood there. She was not wearing her royal regalia, just a simple white robe. "Just thinking, Your Majesty," Noah said, starting to stand. "Sit," she commanded gently. She sat on the stone bench beside him. "The tribunal starts in 3 days. Hart Rowan has hired the best legal defense in the coalition." "It won't matter," Noah said. "The evidence is solid." "The evidence is you," Melis said, "and the memory you shared. It has changed things, Noah. My people, we pride ourselves on the pack mind. We thought humans were disconnected, cold, solitary." She looked at him. "To feel your pain, your love for your mate, your defiance to save our children, it shattered a century of prejudice in 5 minutes." "I didn't mean to broadcast it," Noah said. It just happened. Because you are Pack, Malus said simply. The Scions chose you, and now the Citadel has accepted you. She placed a hand on his good arm. Noah Reddick, you cannot go back to sweeping floors. You know that. I figured, Noah sighed. I assume my contract is terminated. Rewritten, Malus corrected. There is a vacancy on the High Council. We need a voice that speaks for humanity, but understands the heart of the wolf. I want you to be that voice. Noah laughed a dry, raspy sound. Me, a diplomat, Your Majesty. I punched the High Steward in the face. Exactly, Malus smiled. Diplomacy has been too polite for too long. We need someone who knows when to talk and when to bite. I'll think about it, Noah said. Take your time. Malus stood up. Oh, and Noah, the Scions are requesting you. They say the replacement caretaker smells like antiseptic and fear. Go relieve him before they eat his boots. Noah watched her leave. He looked out over the city. The suns were setting, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. He was tired. His shoulder hurt. He was a stranger on a moon full of wolves. But as he heard the familiar yipping coming from the sleeping chamber, Noah Reddick smiled. He stood up, winced, and walked toward the door. All right, he called out. I'm coming, and nobody is eating any boots tonight. The pack-mind hummed in his head, a warm, golden static. It felt like home. The political fallout of a failed coup is rarely tidy. It is messy, loud, and involves a great deal of paperwork. In the weeks following the arrest of High Steward Callan Maris and General Hart Rowan, the Citadel Moongate transformed from a fortress of silence into a hive of bureaucratic chaos. The Terran coalition, embarrassed by the revelation that their hero of peace was actually a war criminal trying to reignite a galactic conflict, scrambled to save face. They recalled their entire diplomatic team and replaced them with a new delegation, men and women in sharp suits who smiled too much and looked at the Luperi guards with a mixture of fear and anthropology textbook curiosity. For Noah Reddick, life had become uncomfortably loud. He was no longer the invisible janitor in the gray tunic. He was the Packheart. He was the human who had commanded the royal scions with his mind. He was the man who had taken a plasma bolt for the smallest prince. When he walked down the corridors, guards snapped to attention. Courtiers bowed. Even the kitchen droids seemed to polish the floors with more enthusiasm when he passed. He hated it. I am not a diplomat, Noah muttered, adjusting the collar of the formal velvet jacket he had been forced to wear. And I am definitely not a cultural attaché. He was standing in the Queen's private solar, looking out at the jagged peaks of the moon. The view was breathtaking silver rock, meeting a sky of bruised violet, but Noah felt trapped. You are whatever the moment requires you to be, Noah, Queen Malus said. She was seated at her desk, reviewing a stack of data slates. The moderates in the council are calling you a hero. The radicals are confused because their children keep asking why the human is nicer than the High Steward. You have broken the narrative. I just want to go back to the nursery, Noah said. The pups need stability. Frost is still having nightmares about the cage. The pups are fine, Malus said, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. They are currently terrorizing the new Terran ambassador by hiding his shoes. But you are right. You do not belong in these stuffy rooms. She stood up and walked over to him. There is a council meeting tomorrow. The new coalition leaders want to discuss the terms of the revised treaty. They want you there. They believe you are the key to understanding us. I don't understand you, Noah said honestly. I just feel you. It's different. Is it? Malus asked. Her eyes, usually sharp and commanding, were soft. We have a ceremony tonight, in the Chamber of Echoes. It is rare for an outsider to be invited. In fact, it has never happened. But I need you to come. Why? Because, Malus said, we need to understand why the Pack-Mind let you in. The mages have theories, but I need the truth. Noah managed to escape the star before the Queen could assign him any more titles. He headed straight for the only place in the Citadel that made sense to him, the royal nursery. The guards at the door didn't ask for his ID. They simply stepped aside, one of them, giving him a respectful nod. Inside, the air smelled of warm milk and cedar. The main playroom was a disaster zone of shredded pillows and scattered toys, but it was quiet. Noah limped over to the large plush rug in the center of the room. His shoulder still ached, where the plasma bolt had hit him, a dull throb that reminded him he was alive. He sat down, intending to just rest his eyes for 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into an hour. He woke up to a familiar weight. It was happening again. The pack pile. Frost was draped across his legs, her gray fur soft against his trousers. Ember and ash were curled up on either side of his torso, acting as heated armrests. Iron was using Noah's stomach as a pillow, snoring softly. Scout, the smallest, was tucked under Noah's chin, his nose buried in Noah's neck. Noah didn't move. He stared up at the ceiling, listening to the synchronized breathing of the most powerful creatures on the moon. "You know," a voice said from the doorway. "If I did not know better, I would say you were hoarding state assets." Noah tilted his head carefully, trying not to disturb Scout. Captain Rhea Solon was leaning against the doorframe. She was not wearing her armor. She wore a simple tunic of dark blue, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked tired, but the tension that had defined her for months, the coiled spring of a soldier waiting for betrayal, was gone. "I am the victim here," Noah whispered. "I sat down. They attacked. It was a tactical ambush of naps." Rhea chuckled a low, throaty sound. She walked over, stepping carefully over a discarded chew toy, and sat down on the rug beside him. She looked at the pile of wolves. Then she looked at Noah. "They are safe because of you," Rhea said. "The Council can argue about treaties and trade routes for the next 100 years. But the bloodline is safe. That is what matters." "They are not just a bloodline, Rhea," Noah said, his hand absent-mindedly stroking Iron's ears. "They are just kids. They like blueberry muffins and bad stories. If we treat them like monuments, they will grow up cold like Kalen." "That is why the Queen kept you," Rhea said. "She sees it. You bring warmth to a cold place." She reached out and traced the line of the scar on Noah's jaw. Her fingers were cool rough with calluses from sword training. "I used to hate you," Rhea admitted softly. "When I first saw your file, Sergeant Reddick, Terran, enemy, I thought you were just another killer sent to finish what the war started." "I was a killer," Noah said. "I can't scrub that out." "No," Rhea agreed. "But you are not just a killer. You are pack." The word hung in the air. In Luperi culture, pack wasn't just a social group. It was a soul bond. It was the difference between us and them. "I don't have fur, Rhea," Noah said with a weak smile. "And I can't howl without sounding like a dying cat." "It is not about the fur," Rhea said. She leaned closer. "It is about who you bleed for. You bled for Scout. You stood against your own kind to save ours. That is the pack." She hesitated, then shifted closer until her shoulder was pressed against his arm. "The Queen has offered me a transfer," Rhea said. "There is talk of a new initiative, a project on the border. She thinks I should go." "Go where?" Noah asked. "Wherever you go," Rhea said simply. Noah turned to look at her. Her golden eyes were steady, unblinking. There was no coyness, no game. Just the absolute terrifying honesty of her species. "I am a complicated man, Rhea," Noah said. "I have baggage. I have nightmares. I have a sister on Earth I send money to." "I like baggage," Rhea said. "It means you have traveled. And nightmares, well, I have those too. We can wake each other up." She didn't kiss him. Not yet. Instead, she laid her head on his shoulder, right next to Scout. She closed her eyes. "Just for 10 minutes, Rhea murmured. "Then I have to go arrest a corrupt supply officer." 10 minutes, Noah agreed. And there, in the heart of the alien fortress, the human veteran lay buried under a pile of wolves and one very dangerous captain, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt completely, utterly safe. The Chamber of Echoes was deep underground, far below the dungeons, far below the roots of the citadel. It was a natural cavern, filled with crystals, that hummed with a violet inner light. Noah stood in the center of a circle of runes. He was barefoot. The queen stood opposite him. 3 Pac-Mind mages sat in the shadows, chanting a low, rhythmic drone that vibrated in Noah's teeth. "Relax your mind, Noah," Malus said. Her voice sounded distant, echoing as if she were speaking from the bottom of a well. "Do not fight the current. Let it take you." "I hate swimming," Noah muttered, but he closed his eyes. The humming grew louder. It became a roar, then silence. Noah opened his eyes. He was not in the cavern anymore. He was standing in a field of ash. The sky was a burning orange. The air tasted of smoke and copper. He knew this place. Sector 9. He looked down at his hands. They were younger, unscarred. He was holding a standard-issue coalition rifle. He was wearing his old combat armor. "No," Noah whispered. "Not this. Please not this." "Go forward," a voice whispered. It wasn't Malus. It was older, deeper. Noah walked. He walked through the burning ruins of the settlement. He saw the bodies of the Luperi defenders. He saw the craters where the homes used to be. He reached the school, the bunker. He saw himself, his younger self, kicking down the door. He watched as the younger Noah froze. He hesitated. He watched the younger Noah lower his weapon and scream into his radio, refusing the order to fire. But then, the vision changed. Time slowed down. Noah saw something he hadn't seen in the chaos of the real memory. In the corner of the bunker, huddled over the terrified children, was an old female Luperi. Her fur was white with age. She was wounded, bleeding from a shrapnel cut on her flank. As the younger Noah argued with General Hart over the radio, the old female looked up. She didn't look at the gun. She looked at Noah's eyes. In the vision, Noah walked closer to her. The world around them, the younger Noah, the screaming radio, the terrified children froze in gray stillness. Only the old female remained in color. She stood up. She was tall, ancient, and radiated power. "You," she said. Her voice was the sound of cracking glaciers. "Who are you?" Noah asked. "I am Matriarch Alara," she said. "Keeper of the seventh thread." She stepped toward him. "I see you, human. I see the choice you are making. You are throwing away your rank, your honor, your life for my children." "They are just kids," Noah said, repeating the mantra that had saved his sanity. "No," Alara said. "They are the future, and you are the bridge." She reached out a hand. It was glowing with violet light. "I am dying," Alara said. "The shell is coming. I cannot stop it, but I can save the future." She pressed her hand against Noah's chest, right over his heart. "I mark you, Noah Reddick. I place a shard of the Pac-Mind within you. It is a seed. It will sleep in your blood. It will wait." "Wait for what?" "For the new generation," Alara said. "I will weave a command into the seed pack. When they are born, they will not look for the strongest warrior. They will not look for the sharpest mage. They will look for the man who saved us. They will look for the heart." Noah gasped as he felt a burning heat in his chest. "Why?" Noah asked. "Why me?" "Because," Alara smiled, and it was a sad, terrible smile. "Compassion in the face of annihilation is the rarest magic in the universe. If a human can show us mercy, while the sky burns, then perhaps, we can be more than enemies." The world dissolved in white fire. Noah gasped, falling to his knees on the cold stone of the Chamber of Echoes. He was back. The mages were staring at him with wide eyes. Queen Malus was pale. "You saw her," Malus whispered. "You saw Matriarch Alara." Noah rubbed his chest. It felt warm. She put something in me. A shard. She died at Sector 9, Malus said, her voice trembling. She was the grandmother of the current line. We thought her wisdom was lost. But she didn't lose it. She hid it. Malus looked at Noah with a mixture of horror and awe. She hid it in you. Noah stood up slowly. He felt dizzy. The pups, he said. The seed pack. They didn't just like me because I gave them muffins. No, Malus said. They were bred, designed by the pack mind to seek the signal Alara left in you. They were a test, Noah. A biological lock, and you were the key. Noah felt a surge of anger. So it was all programmed. Their affection. My connection to them. It was just code. He felt violated. He thought they loved him. He thought he had earned it. But he was just a beacon they were programmed to find. No, Malus said sharply. She stepped forward and grabbed his shoulders. Listen to me. The pack mind can guide instinct, but it cannot forge love. Alara marked you, yes. She made sure they would find you. But what happened after they found you? That was you, Noah. She shook him slightly. The mark didn't make you sing to Scout when he had nightmares. The mark didn't make you jump in front of a plasma bolt. The mark didn't make you teach them honor. Malus softened. Alara opened the door. You are the one who chose to walk through it and stay. The love is real, Noah. The bond is real. It is just deeper than we ever imagined. You were not conscripted. You were chosen 5 years ago because you were the only decent man in hell. Noah let out a long, shuddering breath. He thought about the old woman in the bunker. He thought about the way Frost looked at him. It wasn't a trap. It was a legacy. Okay, Noah whispered. Okay. 2 days later, the formal proposal was made. The High Council chamber was packed. The new Terran ambassador, a man named Stevenson, who wore glasses and actually read the briefing materials, sat opposite Queen Malus. We are proposing a joint venture, Malus announced. A new institution, not a military base, not a trade outpost, a school. She gestured to the holographic map. A section of the silver dusk forest, high on the plateau, where the air was thin and clear, was highlighted. The Academy of the Two Moons, Malus said. Built on the border, half in Luperi territory, half in the human settlement zone. We will train the next generation together. Humans will learn the history of the pack. Luperi will learn the individuality of Terra. We will raise children who do not know how to hate each other. It is ambitious, Ambassador Stevenson said, adjusting his glasses. Who will run it? We would need someone neutral, someone trusted by both sides. Malus smiled. We have such a person. We have created a new title for him. The bridge warden. All eyes turned to Noah, who was standing awkwardly in the back row, trying to make himself small. Mr. Reddick, Stevenson said. You are a janitor, correct? I was a sergeant, sir, Noah said, stepping forward. Then a janitor. Then a nanny. Now, well, I suppose warden sounds better than babysitter-in-chief. There was a ripple of laughter in the room. It was a good sound. A healing sound. I accept, Noah said. But I have conditions. Name them, Malus said. First, Noah said, the curriculum includes history. Real history. No propaganda. We teach them about Sector 9. We teach them about the Luperi raids on the colonies. We tell them the ugly truth, so they don't repeat it. Agreed, Stevenson said. Second, Noah continued, I need a security chief I can trust. Someone who scares the students enough to make them behave, but who won't actually eat them. He looked at Rhea. She smirked. And third, Noah said, looking at the Queen, I need my teaching assistants. Teaching assistants? Stevenson asked. The doors to the chamber opened. Frost Ember, Iron Halo Ash, and Scout trotted in. They were wearing miniature ceremonial vests. They sat down in a row next to Noah, looking incredibly pleased with themselves. The seed pack, Noah said. They started this. They are going to help me finish it. They will be the first students and the first guides. If a human kid can learn to pet a wolf without flinching, and if a wolf kid can learn to share a toy without biting, we might just make it. The evening before their departure for the new academy site, Noah and Rhea stood on the high balcony of the citadel. The wind was cold, biting at their faces, but Noah didn't feel the chill. Below them, the city lights twinkled. Far to the north, the construction lights of the academy were already visible. "It is going to be hard work," Rhea said, leaning her elbows on the railing. "Kids are messy. Teenagers are worse. Mixed-species teenagers. That is a nightmare waiting to happen." "We handled a coup, Rhea," Noah said. "We can handle a few hormonal outbursts." "I transferred my commission today," Rhea said quietly. "I am no longer captain of the Royal Guard. I am officially head of campus security." "A step down in rank," Noah teased. "A step up in the quality of the company," Rhea countered. She turned to look at him. The moonlight caught the silver in her hair. "You are stuck with me, Noah Reddick, for a very long time." "I'm counting on it," Noah said. He reached out and took her hand. It was a tentative gesture, but she laced her fingers through his immediately. The connection was electric, not the Pac-Mind static, but something simpler. Human warmth meeting Luperi strength. Rhea leaned in. Noah met her halfway. The kiss was not like the movies. It was clumsy. Noah's nose bumped hers. Her teeth were a little too sharp. But it was real. It tasted of the cold wind and the promise of tomorrow. When they pulled apart, Rhea was grinning. "So," she said, "the living arrangements at the academy. The warden's quarters." "Yes. It has a large bed." "It does," Noah agreed. "I ordered it specially. Bad back, remember." "Good," Rhea said. "Because the pups are insisting they sleep in the room with us." Noah groaned, dropping his head into his hands. "Rhea, no. They are getting too big. Iron weighs 80 pounds. I can't breathe if he sits on my chest." "They are seed pack," Rhea laughed. "They need their anchor. Besides, it is cold in the mountains. We need the body heat." "I thought you were supposed to provide the body heat," Noah grumbled. "I will provide the heat," Rhea whispered in his ear. "They can provide the foot warming. It is a compromise." "I hate compromises," Noah said, but he was smiling. Epilogue, 15 years later. The plateau was green now. The terraforming engines had done their work turning the harsh rock of the borderlands into a swaying sea of high-altitude grass. The Academy of the Two Moons sprawled across the ridge, a collection of stone and glass buildings that blended into the landscape. It was noisy. The sound of laughter shouting and the occasional howl drifted on the wind. Noah Reddick sat on the steps of the History Hall. His hair was completely white now, and he walked with a cane, though he rarely used it. His prosthetic leg had been upgraded to a biomesh model that didn't ache in the rain. He was watching a scrimmage match on the field below. A team of human teenagers and Luperi youths were playing a chaotic game that looked like a mix of soccer and capture the flag. "Foul!" Noah yelled, cupping his hands around his mouth. "Use your feet, Jacob. No biting." "He started it," a Luperi girl yelled back, shifting from wolf to human form to argue. Noah shook his head, chuckling. "They never listen to the referee," a voice said. Rhea sat down beside him. She had aged gracefully, her fur silvering at the temples, lines of wisdom etched around her golden eyes. She handed him a thermos of tea. "Jacob reminds me of Vance," Rhea said. "Always trying to cheat." "Don't say that," Noah said. "Jacob is a good kid. He just has sharp teeth." A shadow fell over them. Noah looked up. Standing there was a massive wolf, easily the size of a small pony. Her fur was the color of wood smoke, scarred from a dozen training bouts. She wore a sash that marked her as a senior instructor. "Frost," Noah said. "How was the strategy class? Frost shifted. In her humanoid form, she was tall, striking, and carried herself with the regal bearing of a queen, though she had refused the throne to stay here. "Boring," Frost said, sitting on the step below Noah. "Human students think strategy is about math. The Luperi students think it is about running fast. I had to knock their heads together." "Metaphorically?" Noah asked. "Mostly," Frost grinned. She leaned her head back against Noah's knee. It was an old habit. Even now, as a grown warrior, she sought his touch. Noah rested his hand on her head, scratching behind the ear. "The new intake arrived today," Rhea said. 30 humans, 30 Luperi, and 2 from the diplomatic corps. "Are they settling in?" Noah asked. "Mostly," Rhea said. "Although we have a missing persons report already." Noah sighed. "Who ran off? Please don't tell me it's the ambassador's son." "No," Rhea said, her eyes twinkling. 2 of the youngest Luperi transfers. Twins. They vanished from the dorms an hour ago." "I'll get the tracker," Frost said, starting to stand. "No need," Noah said. He closed his eyes. He felt the hum in his chest, the shard of Alara, now a steady, comforting sun. He felt the new threads connecting to it. Faint, tentative, but there. "They aren't far," Noah said softly. He pointed down the hallway behind them. Rhea and Frost turned. Curled up on a pile of Noah's spare teaching robes, which had been left on a bench, were 2 small wolf pups. They were fast asleep, snoring in that high-pitched whistling way that only pups do. One of them had a paw draped over Noah's old battered maintenance cap. Noah smiled. The sight never got old. It was the sight of trust. It was the sight of a future where fear had been replaced by a nap. "Well," Noah said, leaning back against his wife's shoulder, while his adopted daughter rested against his knee. "Looks like I'm going to need a new hat." "Leave them," Rhea whispered. "They found their way home." Noah looked at the sleeping pups, then out at the horizon, where the 2 moons of Lunaris hung in the sky, bright and full. "Yeah," Noah said. "They did." And in the quiet of the afternoon, the bridge warden closed his eyes and took a nap surrounded by his pack.